All right, students, we're going to go over the principles of design. For most of you, this should be a review. Some of you, this might be sort of new. Hopefully something will click for all of these, as you will need all of them shown within your art pieces throughout this semester. So with all that, let's go ahead and do the first one. So the first principle is going to be unity. All elements of a composition work well together. There's no part of the design that stands out, and everything is cohesive. So if there's too much unity, the piece of art will look static and boring. So you'll always want to add a little bit of variety when you're actually creating your artwork. But for our review purposes, unity, we're going to do our design just straight, like pure unity. So some examples you can see. The very top corner is cross sections of wood. It's all circles, it's all the same color, and it goes across the whole entire page. The second one up there is like peacock feathers. They're all the same shape, everything's pretty much the same size, and all the colors, mostly green, get repeated throughout the whole piece. The middle one is different ice cream cones. They're all the same size. They're all arranged, very simply, like in the middle, going across the page. The lower corner is the interlocking hands. Everything is basically the same size. We've got everything, very balanced, and it's all one graphite medium, all black and white. The last one is a piece of some cypress trees. The vertical lines going all the way across, even when it comes to the shadows. There's no bold colors, it's all very pastel-y. So there you go for unity. Some examples and the description. Next one is variety. When a composition has a lot of different elements in it, it shows big time variety. It definitely creates visual interest, but again, if you have too much variety, the piece will look chaotic. So for art purposes, you'll want to unify a little bit with something that reoccurs, but for the review, variety, the more the better. So a few examples, you can go crazy with this, but using color, using tons of different colors. We have the Marilyn Monroe piece there, inspired by Andy Warhol. Marilyn Monroe, she's got tons of different colors in every single part of this piece. The second one is all those hands, lots of colors, again, different shapes, different lines. The next piece up there is more like a graffiti style. Lots of, there's tons of letters, different sizes, can't really read it very well. Colors, again, are different. All the different line qualities make a big play in this as well. Let's see, the one on the other corner down low shows lots of different designs and shapes, sizes and colors, so lots of stuff going on there throughout that piece. The two letter pieces are just simple designs. They have a little bit of unity within them because it's just one letter, but the piece with all the U's, tons of different sizes. All of the U's are in different arrangements. And then the S piece down at the bottom, it starts big and then kind of snakes its way to the teeny tiniest little S that you can barely see up on the top of that. So lots of different variety for these options. Go crazy. The next one is contrast. Okay, contrast is when a composition that uses opposites to show emphasis and interest. So you can use dark and light colors, complementary colors, small and large shapes and designs, rough and smooth, etc. This creates a lot of visual interest. So for the examples, we've got lots of contrasting things going on here. The raspberry bright and red among the really dark background of all the other blackberries. The large pink circles going to small on that light teal background, so the sizes and the colors show contrast. The next two, black versus white, definitely the most contrast you can possibly get using black and white designs. The butterfly shows contrast actually with how crisp and clear the butterfly is against the background, extremely blurred out. The next one, the palm leaves against the, I guess it's a sunset, most likely. The dark sunset, the dark leaves against that bright sunset shows a lot of contrast. Down lower, okay, you have contrast with colors. So these two flamingos against the red and green background. Red and green are the most contrasting colors. One of the most contrasting colors on the color wheel. They're opposites. The pink and red flamingo on top of the green background is way more contrasted than the flamingo against the red background. The last one shows contrast of colors again. Oranges and blues are contrasting colors. So there's some options for y'all for contrast. The next one is closely related. We're going to go through emphasis next. The stress of the piece, the most important part of your piece, or the focal point in your piece of art is definitely clear. So if you can see one part of your piece first when you look at it, you've definitely got emphasis down. So you can show this by size, color, placement, a lot of other things as well. So for examples, looking at each of these pieces, you can clearly see which part is emphasized, be it by color, size, how it's placed, all the above shows emphasis on one part of each of these examples. So the next one is 2 in 1, actually. We're going to go over rhythm and movement in one slide, but they are technically separate. So rhythm is the visual beat of an art piece. So seeing the rhythm, okay, instead of hearing it like you would normally hear in a song. So it shows movement through repetition and pattern mostly. Movement is how the elements move your eye through the piece of art. Okay. So basically we have a lot of crazy designs here. The colorful one is probably making your eyes hurt. It's definitely an optical illusion. It kind of looks like it's moving, but you have the repeating shapes, lines, and colors going around in a circular fashion, getting larger as it goes out. The next one is MC Escher's tessellation. So it kind of repeats colors and shapes throughout the whole piece, showing movement. The black and white design with all those circles, of course everything is repeating, getting smaller as they go into the background. The colored pencils kind of go in a wave motion, again, repetition and pattern. The same goes for the piece beside it, all those circles and rings go inside of each other. And then the piece below it looks like yarn, twisting in and out, repeating colors, the lines going in and out, going throughout the piece. And then the last one, the circular staircase, draws your eye all the way down to that off-center base of the stairwell. So that shows really good movement throughout the piece, using some repetition and getting smaller as you go down. All right, the next one is balance. There's different forms of balance that you need to know and show throughout the year. So the first one is asymmetrical. The focus point is off center of your piece. Symmetrical balance, all sides of the piece are equal. Radial balance, the symmetry in the piece radiates from the center out in a circular direction. Think mandalas, flowers, the sun, whatever. So some examples for each of these. The top row of examples are symmetrical. Okay, you have that tree being split in half pretty much perfectly, the sun directly in the center. Everything is nice and you know, symmetrical. The middle one is the two designed geckos kind of curving into the center where that flower is. And the third one, just a picture of a butterfly. Butterflies are symmetrical. Each side of their wings is the same. The middle section of photos is radial symmetry. You've got the mandala, where everything is the same going around in the circle, each part. The center one, again, radiates from the center. All those butterflies come out, and it's the same going around in a circle. The last one is more of a Celtic knot mandala, where the trees in the knot in the center come out from the center and are the same or all the way around. The last row is my personal opinion, the most exciting and interesting designs. You've got the chessboard photograph where the king is up front, off center, and all those little pawns are in the background off to the side. The middle one shows just an abstract shape piece where all the blues are close together and large, and then it kind of goes off to the side where there's a large amount of the background black with some smaller white shapes. The last example for asymmetrical balance is Hokusai's Great Wave, one of the 36 views of Mount Fuji. Okay, so you have the big massive wave on one side and it's crashing down to the tiny little mountain on the other side. So asymmetrical balance. Still looks like a good composition, but it's not very symmetrical. All right, and our last one. So the last one is the figure-ground relationship. This is kind of a little more difficult to understand and grasp, but once you do grasp it, you can see it in lots of different places. So there's two main parts to this. One, how the foreground fits with the middle ground and the background, how the subject and the background work with each other, back and forth. Okay, the other definition of this is using positive and negative space to create an interesting composition. And you'll see that more in the examples to follow. So the top ones are more of that positive negative use of this concept. The very top, you see the letters in the sky around with the buildings around them. So the positive and negative relationship between the sky and the buildings creates those letters. The Tree of Life piece, you see the tree, of course, black and white design, and then in the white, it's the animals. Small fish on the bottom, the gorilla and the lion in the middle, the largest, and then even on the top, you've got the birds in black. The one down lower is the positive and negative relationship for the black and white legs, the woman's legs going down, the men's legs reaching up, interlocking across the piece. The next one, of course, is the famous vase or face piece. Okay, so the white area is, of course, the vase. The black shapes are the faces, and whichever one you put the most emphasis on, that's the piece you see. The bottom shows the relationship between foreground and background, and it also uses those interesting positive and negative shapes within it, especially those landscapes. So the one on the left-hand corner is this really close-up hand holding the Eiffel Tower in the very, very background. So the foreground, the main subject, is that hand, and then the background is the seemingly teeny tiny Eiffel Tower being held by the hand, but of course it's just further away. So there's a good push and pull for that one. The two landscape pieces show the foreground, the middle ground, and the faraway background, but they also show an interesting use of the positive and negative shapes, especially in the little rivers and water areas in that lower right-hand corner piece. Okay, so that is all of the principles of design in one sort of fast Mod Podge of a slideshow. So feel free to go back and review these if you need to, and that's all.